What's up guys, Asian here again with another PTS video. This one's going to be real quick, real fast. This is just taking a look at the Maelstrom Maelstrom Two-Handed back bar and whether or not the effect actually counts as a bleed for the purposes of Dro'Zakar's Claw. So I know a couple people were telling me that the actual bleed from the Maelstrom Two-Handed back bar is not actually considered a bleed, so I figured we'd just test it out. This should be a very quick and easy test. Basically just have to see whether or not my light attack damage goes up once we apply the bleed itself. So really quick, just going over the testing scenarios here just so you guys can see this and sort of reproduce this yourself if you so desire. First, what we're taking a look at is going to be the Maelstrom Battle Axe. The critical charge deals an additional 9864 physical damage over 5 seconds. So that merciless charge set there, that is what people are thinking may or may not be a bleed. And actually, just to be incredibly clear and just to avoid having to deal with things like the potential possibility that there might be a bleed put on there, we're actually going to go ahead and use the greatsword instead of the battle axe actually. So the greatsword will not have any sort of additional bleed associated with it, and so to make sure that it is actually considered a bleed, we'll be using Dro'Zakar's claws. So for every bleed effect we have on an enemy, it increases our weapon damage by 200 against them. So if Merciless Charge counts as a bleed, then our light attacks should go up. If they do not count as a bleed, then our light attack damage should remain exactly the same. That's the only thing I have here. I don't have any other pieces of equipment. It's just the Dro'Zakar's claw with the Maelstrom greatsword on the back bar. We will only be using Stampede, and so the two numbers we'll be taking a look at are going to be basically light attack damage before we apply Stampede and after we apply Stampede. So Stampede itself doesn't actually have anything associated with it. Yes, there is a dot associated with it, but we know that that's not going to be a bleed because that doesn't have the exact wording of a bleed, unlike Carve where it says causes them to bleed for an additional physical damage over 10 seconds. So this we know is a bleed, but Stampede, that new dot, doesn't have that same sort of bleeds for X amount of damage. So we can pretty safely conclude that Stampede itself is not actually considered a bleed, and we can actually go ahead and test this again with just a plain old normal greatsword to see whether or not we do get the additional bonus from Stampede or not. So I could just pull out another weapon and we can test it out as well. So real quick, let me just double check to make sure that our combat numbers are on. Combat text is not on. So again, taking a look, hold on. First, I'm actually going to go ahead and pull out just a random set. We're going to actually pull out a Reliquin greatsword here, just so we can get a point of comparison. This is just a double check. And we are using Absorb Stamina enchant, so we don't have to worry about the weapon damage enchant potentially messing up our results here. So everything remains pretty much static. So the first thing we're going to do is take a look at whether or not the damage itself, Stampede, the dot, counts as a bleed. So we're hitting for 2999 is our non-crits. So if we go ahead and do this, 2999. So we can see that the dot from Stampede itself is not considered a dot. Now we're going to get out of combat here. And we're going to go ahead and add on the Maelstrom greatsword. So if it counts as a bleed, the merciless charge result, then we should see this go above 2999 for a non-crit light attack. So again, 2999, 5549 is our crit. 2999 is our normal hit, and it does seem like it's not counting as a bleed, so we do see 2999 still there. So in an earlier video I did say that I thought Stampede bleed was count as a bleed. Turns out it does not count as a bleed at all. So it might have been, for example, a weapon damage glyph that I forgot to take off that was confusing our results here, but it doesn't seem like the Stampede effect itself is considered a bleed. So just to kind of rectify that previous video then, Dro'Zakar's Claw, if you are using it, you can have a maximum of 4 bleeds. So that would be the 2 axe bleeds, followed by Carve, and Rending Slashes. Those are the current 4 bleeds in the game. So you have the dual wield bleed, the two-handed bleed, Rending Slashes counts as a bleed, and Carve counts as a bleed, and if possible, you might have a 5th set that might include some sort of bleed effect, so you could have a possibility of 5 different bleeds or Dro'Zakar's Claws. So at most you will have 1,000 additional weapon damage, but obviously with the uptimes of bleeds and stuff, it's going to be a little bit less than that. So if you're just taking a look at like a dual wield two-handed build, you're definitely going to have somewhere around 400 weapon damage or so, just between the axe bleed and the two bleeds from carve and rending slashes, but it will probably be somewhere around 400 to 600, somewhere in the middle, probably close to 500 weapon damage in total. So I do intend on re-going through Dro'Zakar's claws for, at the very least, Stam DK and Stam Sork potentially, mainly because those two have the dots and probably the best classes to compare Dro'Zakar's with something like Deadly Strikes, which affects all dots. So just be on the lookout for that video as well. So conclusion, the Merciless Charge set effect from Maelstrom Two-Handed does not count as a bleed for Dro'Zakar's claws. So that's it for this video. I know it's pretty short, but this is a very simple test that I just wanted to put out there. So thanks for tuning in, guys, and I'll see you guys in the next dungeon.